Good morning and welcome to St Mark's at Home. This is the first of our online broadcasts and we hope you enjoy it. My name is Debbie Veal and I'm a licensed lay minister at St Mark's Church. This morning, Sunday the 29th of March, the reading is John chapter 11 verses 17 to 45 and it tells the story of the raising of Lazarus. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she replied. "I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into this world." After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher is here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could he not who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odour, for he has been there for 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Therefore, many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did, believed in him. This is the word of the Lord. In this morning's story of Lazarus, it is one that is very familiar to most of us. But did you know, and I didn't, that Lazarus actually means God has helped, not God will help or God is coming. So Lazarus's parents named him this well before Christ restored him to life. So his name gives hope. We need hope right now. We are in the middle of the biggest pandemic since 1918 to 20. In that one, 39 million people died. They were young people without any pre-existing medical conditions. However, in COVID-19, our current pandemic, it is our older people, our frail people, and those with pre-existing medical conditions who are most at risk. The question we often ask ourselves is, why didn't Jesus rush to his friends? Why didn't he get there sooner? Why did he just stay and not hurry? Why doesn't God hurry to us? Why doesn't he give some scientists some amazing breakthrough to find a vaccine immediately? God knows we'll get through. We just have to wait and play by the rules. The difference is Jesus. Lazarus doesn't raise himself, nor does Martha or Mary, his sisters. It is Jesus. We've met Martha and Mary before in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. And this is the time Martha is busily preparing the house and the food, and as you might do when you've got guests coming. Martha rebukes Mary, for she's sitting at Jesus' feet just listening to him. Martha asks Jesus effectively to tell Mary off and get her to help. Jesus surprisingly refuses, and he actually says, Martha's thinking about earthly things, and Mary understands who he is and what he's come for. I do feel sorry for Martha though. I think she gets a bit of a bad deal in this. But yet here, in this passage, in verses 21 to 22, she gets it. She says to him, Lord, if you'd got here sooner, my brother would still be alive. But even now, I know that God will give you everything you ask for. She gets it. She understands. And in verse 27, she says, I believe you are the Messiah. You are the Christ, the one who's to come to us. She's been on a journey of faith. She's moved from the earthly to the spiritual. She's made a long journey. And sometimes we forget this in this story because we're concentrating on Lazarus. I remember when I had breast cancer, one of the analogies I used to use was that I'd been put on a plane. It wasn't a plane of my choice. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know the destination. I didn't know the journey. I didn't really want to be on this journey. Actually, and I think that's how it is for the world right now. We're on a journey we didn't choose. We don't know how we started. We certainly don't know where the end is. We don't know what the journey is going to be like. So I think it's a good analogy for us. Maybe we too, like Martha, are making a journey of faith. In verse 35, it is one of the shortest in the Bible. It just says, Jesus wept. That's it. Just Jesus wept. And it says his tears were for his friend Lazarus and for the sisters Martha and Mary, who were bereft at the premature bereavement of their brother from some unknown illness. It shows Jesus as being fully human. But also, these tears are tears for humanity. They're divine tears for the death, disease, sin and sadness in the world. There's a bigger perspective. It's similar to when Jesus was weeping at the top of the Mount of Olives just before his crucifixion. He's weeping over the city of Jerusalem in Matthew 23 verses 37 to 39 and Luke 19 verses 41 to 44. They are tears for God's people in Jerusalem and effectively God's people worldwide. Jesus is seeing the divine picture. These are divine tears. I don't believe that God sent this. I don't believe it is a punishment. I believe in a loving and kind and gracious God. I believe that just as Jesus showed God's glory through the dire situation with Martha and Mary and Lazarus, that God's glory will show through this. I am fortunate I'm on a lot of Facebook and WhatsApp pages, and yes, there are bad things about people panic buying and things like that, but overwhelmingly I am seeing the positives in people. I am seeing God's image. I am seeing people looking after other people, caring for their neighbours, being concerned, being encouraging, doing amazing things. The Bishop of Basingstoke calls our town Amazing Stoke. And to be honest, what I've seen right now really backs that up. I am seeing God's image here on earth in the people of this town. We have become separated from each other, from our land, from our animals, and from God. We can't hurry along this dire situation. We can't hurry it any more than Martha and Mary could hurry Jesus along. Jesus brought good out of bad and brought new life. And I'm sure God will bring new life out of this. All we have to do is do as the sisters did. Sit back, wait, trust in God. Use our time wisely. Use this time to reconnect with each other, the land, the animals, and ultimately to reconnect with God. Amen. So there are a couple of hymns that, if we'd have been in church, that I think really fit with this story. I won't read all the verses of them, just a few. One is the song, the hymn Abide With Me by Henry Francis Lyte, which begins, Abide with me, fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, helper of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempter's power? Who like thyself my guide and stay can be, through cloud and sunshine, oh, abide with me. The other one I really like is another one that people would be familiar with, The Lord's my shepherd. And again, I won't read all of the verses, just a couple. The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me the quiet waters by. My soul he doth restore again, and me to walk doth make within the paths of righteousness, e'en for his own name's sake. Yea, though I walk in death's dark vale, yet will I fear none ill, for thou art with me, and thy rod and staff me comfort still. I hope you find some joy and some comfort in these two very old hymns, and we look forward to joining you again on another Sunday.